Hey, what's up, team? My name is Esmey Leon, and you are at the Wake Up Naked podcast. I am here with the one and only and the gorgeous DrElizabeth. So, DrElizabeth is a best-selling author of Skinny Dipping in the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah.
She's an energy healer and a life coach.
Yes.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, sweetheart.
I know.
Thank you.
I remember when
appreciate
it was just released, and we were talking about, throwing the release parties, and I was
Yes.
like, wow, that's so exciting. And now it's gotten to...
Now it's doing really, really well. In fact, I remember when I got the memo from the universe to write it, because I consider myself a lot of different things. I've had 8 careers in my lifetime thus far. Writer was never one of them. And I got the memo from the universe, you're going to write a book. And I was like,
wow.
God.
When did that happen? How did that happen, by the way?
It's a really, really cool story. Yeah. So 3 different intuitives predicted that I would write a book. The first 2, I was so not in that space, I didn't even hear them. Remember my one very, very dear friend, she's an intuitive, and she was giving me a reading, and she says, oh, you're going to write a book. And I didn't even hear it. It was like back in early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And what happened was after the book came out, she said, remember I told you about it. I went back to the recording. I was like, I didn't even hear it. Wow. That's how in the distance it was. But Spirit was starting to drop these little hints.
Yeah.
Then I was at a beautiful meditation retreat, and this beautiful young man, like I must have been in his 20s. He taps me on the shoulder after the meditation. He said, excuse me, can I share something that I got with you in my meditation? I said, of course. Mm-hmm. And this is like maybe 2005 now. And he said, when I was with my eyes closed in my meditation, I saw you were sitting in front of me, and I saw this rainbow all around you. And I want to tell you, you're going to write a book that's going to help a lot of people someday.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm not a writer. I'm not going to write. I just remember like, I'm not going to do that. And then what happened was when I turned 50, in my late 40s, I was a journalist doing what you're doing, interviewing people doing amazing things in the world. Wow. And I thought that that's where I was going to land. I had been in so many different careers before. I thought, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do. When I turned 50, a very dear friend of mine gave me a reading. So the woman says to me, the very first thing she says to me, you're a speaker. And you're going to be on stage within 6 months. 6 months to the day I was on stage. And I remember, because it was predicted when I started dancing professionally when I was 40. And
yes,
the same thing happened. I was 40 and I always dreamed of dancing, but I was like, how is this going to happen at 40? And I remember a clairvoyant also said to me, you're a dancer and you're going to dance. Just be open. You're going to dance. And I remember thinking, how? And then what happens is that once you become open, the universe gives you the way. God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, your higher self. It opens up these doors for you, and you're placed in these places where your logical mind would go, that's not possible. Mm-hmm. Like I remember when I was told I'm going to be a dancer at 40, I was like, I saw visions of me dancing my whole life. I knew it was in the cells of my body, but I was like, how?
So that's super interesting that you see visions and almost like see into the future. Have you always had that since you were little?
I have my whole life. And what I like to share with people, it's not like it's special or different. Everybody has it, but not everybody develops it. In my book, I say that intuition, clairvoyance, whatever you want to call that, intuitive intelligence, comes standard with every physical body, like a bicep. But when do we learn about that? In school, we don't learn about it. Certainly in most homes, we don't learn about it. So it's like this thing that's thought of as, oh, special. This person has it, but I don't have it. In fact, I'm starting a course in the coming year, and I'm going to dive deep into how to hone and tap into your intuitive intelligence.
That's really cool. And people can find that online, right?
Absolutely.
How to work with you. What, for the sake of this podcast, what tip could you give someone now if they wanted to start to develop their skill on intuition?
Intuition. Yeah. Okay. So the most important thing is just start by owning the fact that you have it. And the more peaceful we get, the more you can just stop for just a minute. Also, I would say trust it, because we hear it. Everybody does. It's like, oh, that hunch. Some people will say, oh, I had a gut, right? People will say, oh, I had a gut feeling about something. Some people will hear it as guidance. I hear it often as guidance. It could be something as simple as turn left or write or go speak to this person. Or like for you, I mean, that your intuition said, start this podcast. Your intuition had you starting to dance. Your intuitions had you start to do a lot of different things. We may not think of it as intuition, but it's our inner guidance. It's the thing that when we get really still, we tap into our heart, our soul, and our spirit. It's that still small voice, that little whisper that says, do this, do this. And I'm sure everyone here in this room has a story of how you ended up in audio, you ended up in front of a camera, you ended up in the gym. Yeah, everybody has it. Oh yeah. And when we don't listen to it, we end up in places where we don't belong. I ended up being a doctor, which was not where and I knew it, but that fight was, it was a fight with my family, and I ended up succumbing to it, but I knew it wasn't right. So we know, and when we can trust it and listen to it and start by practicing that. Does that make sense?
So developing it by trusting.
Develop it 3 things. Begin to listen to it for it. Like just begin to acknowledge that you have it. You're worthy of it.
Because there are some people that you think don't even think they have it.
No, they think it's special. They think, oh, Dr. Elizabeth, you're so special because you have intuition. No, we all do. It's just like if someone said, oh my gosh, you guys are so special, you go to the gym and you're so muscular. Well, we're muscular because we go to the gym. We all have the muscles in our body. We just develop them. So it's the same thing. Just owning it, knowing that you have it, and then beginning to pay attention to it. And then when you hear it, begin in small ways to act on it.
Right. And you said that I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, how do you distinguish between the intuition
I knew you were going to ask that.
and mind chatter? And I asked that because I think you're the perfect person to answer this.
And it's actually really easy because the mind chatter sounds like, it's noisy, it's distracting, and it's like, it drives you crazy, right?
Right.
Mind chatter will take you off your path. Mind chatter will tell you you're not good enough. Mind chatter will tell you you can't do that. Okay, for example, let's start a podcast. Let's get everybody together. Mind chatter would say, you can't do that, Esmey. Who are you to do?
I'll tell you. It's too hard. You don't know how to do. You don't know anything about the technicalities of the podcast.
But we figured out, right? I did the exact same thing. I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know how to start. I used to have an international talk show. I used to have all these different things that I've done. Even starting dancing, all the things I've done. I didn't know how to do them, but. You start with the desire in your heart. There's this thing that's a pull, and that's the intuition. The intuition is quiet. And so that's why, mindfulness practices are so important. And exercise is one of those practices. You can get, I get so many messages in the gym. I get so many.
Oh my gosh. I started carrying a notebook.
Exactly.
And I used to think, I'll remember this.
No.
No, you won't. Because it hits you because you're open and free and high.
Exactly. Moving meditations are the bomb. You don't have to I'm triple fire. I'm an Aries, Sag, Moon, Leo rising. I can hardly still I have so much fire and energy. So
I can attest to that. Yeah.
So for me, moving is a great way. I do lots of moving meditations, and it's a great way to And so I do voice memo on my phone, and I just dictate it into the phone.
Yeah, that's a great tip. So notebook or phone,
something to capture. Because what happens, it's like this golden thread that is delivered from across the veil through the ethers into your awareness. And you want to capture it and you want to follow that thread. And it's really important when you get it to grab it and capture it. That's really, really important. If you like you said, I'll get it later. You don't get it later because you're like, because it was a gift. And if you don't grab it, a lot of times it just it moves on to the next. It moves on and it gets delivered to the next person who's open and ready to grab it. That's why I've known you probably have seen this before, where you'll have an idea, and if you don't act on it, and then someone else goes, you're like, oh, I should have acted on that idea. You don't act on it, the universe finds another willing vessel, and it works through that vessel.
I love that keyword, willing.
Willing.
Because it's not that they're better.
No,
it's the idea came to you as well.
It came to you first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's what I always say to my private clients. Be willing to be open to the possibility of saying yes where you have previously said no in your life. I tell my private clients, you don't even have to say yes. Just be willing to be open. That's why with dancing, it was such And then the other thing that happened when I was 50, and this person who was giving me a reading said, "You're a speaker." And I was like, what am I going to talk about? I interview people. I just became willing. I remember what happened when I was 40 and I, became a dancer. I was just like, shh, just be still, Elizabeth, and just listen. Started listening. 6 months to the day I was on stage speaking. And the whole thing got downloaded to me in visions and in my meditations.
Through other
in
people.
the gym, through other people. Absolutely. It came. If you're willing, it finds a way. All it needs is your willingness. We get bogged down in, oh my God, how are we going to do this? It's like, and I'm sure people, we've heard this so many times. Don't worry about the how, but it's so true. If you just are willing and you say, yes, use me, I'm a willing vehicle for this which you want to move through me, want to be birthed through me. If you just can be that willing vehicle, it finds a way to move you. There's one more thing I want to share with you because I've just been going through this.
I love it.
I would say within the last 6 months. My whole life, I've been two distinct and very, very different people. One was highly, highly, deeply spiritual, highly intuitive. Like I remember my earliest memories, I'm maybe 2 years old. I could close my eyes and just drop out of my body and go into the abyss of the universe, could, move time, all sorts of things so I'm 60. So, they weren't talked about. Oprah didn't have a show back then. Deepak Chopra wasn't doing it.
You're like, what's going on?
And it was, I knew because I didn't lose when I came through the veil into this dimension. I didn't lose that memory. I knew. I just didn't have anybody else to talk to about it. So what happened was, fast forward, it's like, so that's one part of my life that I've been deeply passionate about. And I've been, working with people, healing, doing, energy clearing work, all of this for a very, very, very long time. There's this other aspect of me, fitness, fashion, fun, sexy, glamorous, like on stage, doing really great things, modeling. It's so funny. I just signed with a modeling agent at 60. 60. So fun. Dancing on stage, like all these things that someone would consider worldly. And I had them as like, I had them as an either or. Like, okay, I had to make a choice. It's like, where did I even get that? Like that was like somebody in the world.
It was a program that was given to you.
It was a program that was given to me by my parents. But the truth of the matter is I didn't. And the funny thing is so for a long time, I wouldn't say yes to the healing. And just recently, I really opened up to working with private clients. I now have private clients all around the world. And I'm doing this amazing work with them. And the more I open up to that, the more this fun other side opens up as well.
You mean you became open and owning that you're a healer?
Owning it and also being public. Like before that realization, we wouldn't be having a conversation about me being an energy healer. That would just be something I do
privately.
Because what happen is that I've had tons of private clients. They just keep coming to me because their soul, they're very deep, very, very deep spiritual people. And their soul just connects with me. They either see me on YouTube or they see me on stage speaking. They see me someplace and they're like, you can heal my soul. I need to work with you. Like literally that's how it works.
Yeah.
And so I just, for years had been just doing that like almost on the side. And I was like, no, it's making a huge difference in people's lives. I want to be more public about it. I'm ready to be more public about it. Because I had this fear if I drop down that rabbit hole, I'll get stuck there and I won't be able to do this.
Oh, yes.
But what happened was when I owned this, this became much bigger. So it wasn't an either or at all. Yeah. And the biggest part I want your audience to know is that if they're in this dilemma, when you choose both, what ends up happening is that the one thing that you were kind of pushing down, that flourishes, but this side, the one that you were trying to protect, it blows up even more.
Yeah, it's almost like they nourish each other.
Well, here's the thing. This is what I talk about in my book and also with my private clients. We're multidimensional beings. And what I say is that if we're at 0 point, infinite possibility for our life. The moment we make one positive decision, one life-enhancing decision in the direction of where we want to go, it's not that you just make that little decision. It's like the domino effect. Everything starts to go. So now you made a decision. Let's say you wake up, you make the decision to go, drink your smoothie and go to the gym instead of eating, Egg McMuffin and then, going and sitting on your butt. So what happens is that you make that decision. Now, the next decision you make is that you're going to go eat something healthy for lunch. Then let's say let's say if the person's at work, you're sitting there at work, usually you're really quiet, you don't contribute, but all of a sudden you're so energized, you're like, let me contribute. Next thing you know, you get a promotion. Next thing you know, it's like the whole thing, it just exponentially, grows and expands just by that one small decision.
Yeah.
It opens up a whole new world because we're multidimensional beings.
Yeah. I love that analogy of the domino effect.
It's what happens.
And it's like one time.
That's what happens.
Yeah. And it could work for you or against you.
It can absolutely work. Yeah. You make that decision. Oh man, like you complain about something first thing in the morning. Your whole day will be a pejorative downhill cycle.
And we've all felt that, right? Where it's
we've all done it.
Done it, felt it. You've been in a bad mood and then everything just keeps getting worse.
It spirals but here's the thing, and this is what I want your audience to know too. It's not, you don't have to throw in the towel. You can actually bring that back. So what can happen is that, okay, you kind of, you made a couple of decisions that were not life-enhancing decisions. In a moment, you can stop and take a breath and just be like, literally, okay, I'm choosing different now. Yeah. And in that moment, you switch the energy, you switch the spiral, you stopped it, and then you make one life-enhancing decision, you're going to spiral back up again.
So you mentioned the breath.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you do when you are, when you know you're starting the spiral or already deep in it?
Well,
what are your practices?
Yes. So the biggest practice is to wake up, period. Like the reason we get into this problem to begin with is that most people are asleep. I love your show, Wake Up Naked, which I really want us to talk about that. Yeah. But here's the thing, that wake up part, it's not just literally wake up. It's like literally and metaphorically waking up to your life. Most people are asleep. They're going to jobs they hate. They're married to people they don't even like. They're having children when they haven't even searched their soul to decide, do I want to bring a life into this world? And how do I want to do it? They're not doing their purpose. And what ends up happening, that's so painful to a soul. To live off purpose, to live not in your soul's calling is so painful that you can't handle it, so people numb out. When you see people drinking, excessively drinking, smoking, not taking care of their bodies, making choices that are, sexaholic, any kind of addiction kind of behavior, it's rooted in the fact that they've put themselves asleep. The subconscious, it's too painful, and they put themselves asleep because being awake, their soul can't handle being awake in an environment where you're not living your soul's purpose.